Beyond the Game, brought to you by Turkish Airlines.
Women's football in sharp focus in this special edition of Beyond the Game. There's growing interest and excitement in the women's game with the World Cup now just 2.5 months away. We've got stars from Liverpool and Besiktas on the show. Very excited about that. Jessica Orourke is here, the Besiktas star. Liverpool's attacking fullback and winger Gemma Perfield is also waiting in the wings. Welcome to Beyond the Game, everybody. Twice in the space of 7 days, we've seen record attendances for a women's league match in Europe. A crowd of 61,000 turned out for the Atletico Madrid and Barcelona game, and history was also made in Italy, where more than 39,000 spectators watched Juventus women against Fiorentina. It's a different story altogether here in Turkey, where the country's football passion isn't quite reflected in the women's game. But there's one team in the south hoping to tackle perceptions both on and off the pitch. Samantha Johnson travelled to Hakkari and spent some time with the Women's Super League team there.
Hakkari, a town of only 240,000 people, nestled in the picturesque mountains in the southeastern corner of Turkey. And it's here that a team in the Turkish Women's First League are breaking down barriers and challenging taboos of playing football in the region. This is Hakkari Gücüspor.
This club was founded to pave the way for our girls' future, to help them prosper. We were sure that our girls could play the sport and become successful, and I think we've achieved our goal. Our girls have become professional footballers, and some of them are coaches. We even have players in the Turkish national team. I think we've helped this region to improve, and we've helped the growth of women's football in Turkey.
With record-breaking attendances and sponsorship deals, women's football is making inroads across Europe. Powerhouses like Lyon, Manchester City, Atletico Madrid and Juventus have all invested in the women's game. Take the French League, for example. All of the 12 teams in the women's top flight are affiliated with their respective men's club, with 8 of those teams currently featured in Ligue 1. But despite a fiercely passionate footballing culture, the same can't be said for Turkey, with Besiktas the only Super League side to have a women's team. While the league is fighting for recognition in a male-dominated sport, Hakkari are fighting to shed an image. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, terror attacks by the PKK overshadowed the region, and the conflict left a broken image.
Hakkari Gücüspor have helped us to change perceptions of Hakkari. Our town is no longer associated with its troubled past. That bad image of Hakkari is long gone. Our town has become renowned for sports, festivals, and cultural activities. We are proud of these women. The city embraces the team. We are all fans and we support them in every possible way.
Despite their success and support from the town, the stigma of playing matches in Hakkari persists.
People are often biased before coming to Hakkari. Mostly they are scared. But when they get here, their views change. They are surprised by our hospitality and the beauty of the town. There is no fighting in Hakkari anymore. That's all in the past. It's very friendly and peaceful. So, they leave our town with pleasant memories, and when they go home, they tell others about their good experiences in Hakkari.
With limited opportunities in the region, playing football is a way out. And along the way, these players are breaking stereotypes of what it means to be not only a woman in football, but a woman in Hakkari.
It was difficult to be a woman in Hakkari back in the day, because women were only considered to be housewives. But it's all changing now. Just look at our team. My teammates are either studying or have jobs. This team's existence is helping to end the women belong in the home ideology.
If it wasn't for football, I would have stayed at home. I wouldn't have gone to university. Football changed everything for me.
So in the space of 10 years, Hakkari Gücüspor have become a professional club with an academy. They've secured the Under-17 Turkish Championship. They've gained promotion to the women's top flight. And out of all the 13 clubs in Hakkari, they are the most successful. But the best bits, they're led by two women under the age of 30.
We took over the management of the club because our goal was to create something where the young women of Hakkari could play football. We wouldn't let anyone else run the club. It had to be one of us. Even now, our board of directors consists of women who are involved in the club.
So here you have a team led by women for women. A team that's attracted players from Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia and Kazakhstan are making strides in the top flight of women's football. But they're heavily dependent on sponsors. And without that financial support, the future of Hakkari Gücüspor looks bleak. And with 13 clubs sharing the city's sole stadium, the lack of facilities is proving to be a huge drawback.
I'm trying to make my voice heard as much as possible. The potential of sportswomen and men in Hakkari is very high. If we have the right facilities, I believe they'd be able to become professionals, not only in football, but also in other careers.
They may lack sufficient resources, but what they're not short of is belief. Belief that they're contributing to their society and inspiring the next generation of Turkish women on and off the pitch.
We are all free women. We are free to decide what to do with our futures. This shows the power of the sport, and it shows how football is changing perceptions.
Football made me who I am. We have paved the way for the next generation, and I'm proud of that. A career in the sports will improve the chances for young women in the region. There won't be child marriages anymore.
When I started, I didn't think it would be permanent. But the more involved I got, the harder it was to leave. Our priority is the girls, and we are responsible for them, and that makes us happy. I always think how lucky we are to give young people hope for the future.
Jessica Orourke is a Besiktas player, but she's also the face of women's football in Turkey and joins us now in studio. Thank you so much for making the time to come on to Beyond the Game. I want to ask why there's less of an appetite for women's football, especially in Turkey. I mean, I've seen the Vodafone Arena when Besiktas play, the men play on match day. It is packed. Why is that interest not filtered its way down into women's football in the country?
Right. I wouldn't call it necessarily a lack of interest or not that there's the capacity for it. I think there's just a lack of awareness. So we can be thankful to programs like you shedding light on women's football and teams like Besiktas that are fielding a women's team, you know, that's partnered with a men's club. And I think that's just what needs to happen in Turkey. There's a lot of people that still don't know. There's a women's league here, that there's 10 teams in the first league, that there's 12 teams in the second league, that there is a women's league. First and foremost.
So then what more needs to be done, though? I mean, it's fine you say it starts with the media, yeah, but should I be, you know, rallying up my friends and saying that we're going to go watch the women play on a Saturday? Is it something as basic as that, or is there something else you'd like to see? I think
specifically in Turkey, I think there's a lack of exposure and knowledge about it, and I think partly it's cultural, that, you know, like some other countries, as they experienced in the beginning, football is considered a men's sport, largely in Europe, where in America it's considered, or was considered, a women's sport. So I think there are also some stereotypes that need to be broken to kind of advance the women's football here. And I think the teams that exist now are campaigning to do that, and there are campaigns that are doing that.
You were also the ambassador for the Euro 2024 campaign for Turkey. Just in terms of the Turkish Football Federation, has there been talks with them about developing the game more for the women, applying more resources, more money into the game? Right.
So the federation right now is doing what is required by the UEFA. Spending that amount of budget for women's football is required by all of the nations in the UEFA. Specifically right now, they're focusing on resources and grassroots development, which is also going to benefit the women's teams. And while we do need more recognition at the top level that, yes, there exists, we also have to increase the population of women's players that are playing from a young age so that we can be able to compete in tournaments like the UEFA or the World Cup. So we need to develop strong young players to feed into the top teams so it becomes almost a even more quality and enjoyable match to watch as well.
Besiktas is a very well-known team. not just in Turkey, I mean, almost the world over. You speak to anyone from outside these borders, they'll talk about Besiktas, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, etc. But in terms of playing for Besiktas women, do you find that there's encouragement, support from the men's side? They are very popular in these parts. Do they offer that kind of encouragement?
They do. Specifically 2 years ago on Women's Day, we were out in front of all the fans in Vodafone Arena, and the men's players actually shook our hands and said, congratulations. You know, they do support us. They have shared sometimes our successes on their own stories, so that's always motivational for us, and it's nice that they take the time out to think about us when they already have their own busy schedules. So.
Besiktas women are on the verge of qualification for the UEFA Champions League. I mean, how big of a deal would that be to you to compete in your first ever Champions League?
That would be absolutely amazing. And like I said, with the fan base that we have at Besiktas, I think it would be monumental in propelling the importance and the popularity of women's football in Turkey for Besiktas to compete in the Champions League. We've only been in existence for 4 years. So within that 4 years, we've been relegated from 3rd division to 2nd division to 1st division. This is our 3rd year in the 1st division. So if we can win it this year and compete in Champions League, I think it would be huge for women's football in Turkey.
And just tell us very quickly, what is a typical day as a woman footballer for Besiktas like? I mean, talk us through the training and just what your day encompasses.
Exactly. So to be honest, the women's football player, for generally most of our players, the girls are either in school or they also have to work to make ends meet. And that's the status for a lot of women's football players around the world. But we have training, we do go to camps, pretty much the same as a men's schedule. Whatever you see a men doing in their training, whenever you see the clips, we're doing the same thing, the fitness, the nutrition, everything.
Fantastic. Listen, and all the best for the Champions League qualifications. I'm going to get my friends together and we're definitely going to come watch you. Appreciate you taking the time.
We'll
Jessica
be
Orourke, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And over in England, there's been a landmark moment in women's football. Barclays Bank has signed a multi-million-dollar deal to become the first title sponsor of the FA Women's Super League. The deal is said to be worth around $13 million over the next 3 seasons. The FA has called the partnership the biggest investment in UK women's sport by a brand. Starting from the 2019-2020 season, the top tier will be called the Barclays FA Women's Super League. And it's been a great couple of weeks for women's football, with Adidas announcing that the winners of the Women's World Cup will receive the same performance bonuses as the men, and Nike has been unveiled as the official match ball supplier of UEFA women's competitions. Liverpool winger Gemma Perfield joins us now. What a pleasure, Gemma. I mean, what has the response been to that announcement that Barclays will be investing quite heavily into the women's game in England?
It's been an amazing response. It's obviously fantastic for the women's game over here in England, and it just increases incentive and helps install professionalism in all the clubs here in the Women's Super League. And to now have it as the Barclays Women's Super League is definitely going to raise the profile and help increase the participation and hopefully how many people watch us on a weekly basis.
Gemma, give us some insight into the women's game in England. What are the kinds of support you receive? How do the fans, support your game and come and watch and so on?
I think the fan base has grown massively, especially over the last couple of years. And as there's been more money put into these clubs, it's really helping the girls develop, which makes it a more entertaining game to watch, which is why our fan base has increased massively. You see, there's quite big crowds at some of these games, and you've always got a group of fans that follow each team around to every game, and that's massive because we never used to have that. So the fans make it a better atmosphere, and they always help, and it's great when you're playing in front of a big crowd.
Gemma, do you find that the social media side of it from the club helps boost your team's profile as well? Because, you go onto the YouTube accounts of the big teams like Liverpool, Spurs, Man City, and so on, and there's almost dedicated sections for the women's team, and they get one very excited about the women's game. Do you find that helps and encourages the game?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's massive when the men's Twitter account is retweeting our games or retweeting clips from our games and just putting us out there and putting us on the map as a professional team and showing that they support us, because that's big. Knowing that the men's team has your back and does support you is fantastic. And so giving you exposure through their accounts and commenting and comparing you to the men at times in a positive light is fantastic. It really helps increase the exposure and increase, people wanting to watch our game and letting them know that we have a team, we are professional, and we are competing at the top level.
And of course, I mean, Coach Jurgen Klopp and some of the senior big-name players, do they offer any advice at any point or help encourage and mentor you in your role as a women's player of the team?
Not so much, because we obviously are in two different camps in terms of where we train and stuff. But I mean, they are supportive on social media. We do get messages from players and ex-players when we're playing in big games, like we were at Man City the other week. We get video messages from players, so we do know they support us. But obviously, we have the same job but in different places, kind of thing. So they've got a task in hand as well. But yeah, we all do support each other, and it is evident that we do that.
Gemma, how would you like to see the women's game further developed and promoted?
I think, like the example's been set, at Juventus and Barcelona in the last couple of weeks. I think the next challenge is, can we do that here in England? And I'd like to see, obviously, the fan base just keep increasing, the participation numbers keep increasing, and keeping people involved and getting them involved from a very young age and keeping them involved for as long as possible, because that's how you're going to develop quality players, and that's how we're going to keep pushing the game on. So I'd love to see something happen in England, get a big crowd of 39,000, 60,000, because that's fantastic for the women's game. And I think our international team is showing that we have potential to do that. So that'd be fantastic, and hopefully the next step for England.
Gemma, this is almost going to feel like a bit of an unfair question, but when Liverpool are doing well and the top of the Premier League, etc., the men's team, is there that automatic pressure on the women's team to perform well as well?
Of course, I mean, we put pressure on ourselves to do well because you always want to win every game. And I think it's just fantastic and nothing but a positive to be associated with such a big club as Liverpool is. And it's great seeing the men do so well. And I think it does spur us on and push us on to think, well, we want to be doing the same. We want to be doing just as well. And we want to be winning the league too. So I think it's just extra motivation. They're setting the standards, setting the examples, and we need to follow that example and make sure that we want to win games and we want to eventually win in the league.
And what about family and friend support? Because I'd like to get a sense of, what is being discussed around the lunch table on a Sunday.
Family and friend support is fantastic. I mean, there's always a big group of family that come to the games, and we get tickets for our families. And, they're always proud. And it's just fantastic that it's got to the stage it has already, that we are full-time professionals and that it is a job for us. That's amazing, because that never used to happen. But I think for family and friends' point of view, it's just great to be able to come watch and say like that we're officially professional footballers and that they can support us through that journey is brilliant.
Gemma, please run us through a typical match day. I mean, how does it start for you? How does it end?
Typically we play at 2:00, so we usually we're kind of all get up, we'll eat breakfast, we'll meet at the stadium about an hour and a half before the game starts. We then go and walk out on the pitch, get a feel for it, start to visualize and think about what we're going to do in that game, and how we're mentally preparing for the game at that point. In the changing rooms, we get the music on, we get ourselves fired up and ready, get our last, words of wisdom and team talk, and then we get out and warm up, make sure the warm-up's good, and we play the game at 2:00. And then after that, you sit and eat with family and hopefully celebrate the win you've just got.
I'm glad you brought in the mental aspect of it, because I wanted to get a sense of what coping mechanisms there are when results don't go your way or when they do. I mean, I'm sure this speaks to the men's side of it as well, but I just wanted to get a sense of, is it the family? Is there a team doctor? Who exactly is that pillar of support for you?
I think it's very different for each player. I mean, some players would like to go and maybe talk to their family about it. Some might want to talk to teammates. Some might want to talk to the coach, or like you say, a sports psychologist. I think it all just depends on the person and what they prefer. But I think the biggest thing is you win, you lose, and that's part of sport. And it's how you bounce back and how you learn from it. The best way for me is to sit and reflect, watch the game back, think, what did I do well? What can I do better? And then just learn from it going into the next game. And that is a big side of football in general, and making sure that you're always learning and always improving.
And personally, have you set yourself goals? Have you achieved them already? Or are there still unaccomplished goals you've set your sights on?
I mean, for the rest of this season, obviously you just want to keep progressing, playing as many minutes as possible and just keep learning. As it's my first season back in England, that's kind of the main goal, settle in, earn my place and continue to develop. But I think looking forward to next year, obviously going to set some more goals. I want to be a prominent player within this team, within this league, and moving forward want to present England in the full national team. So yeah, there's definitely goals still to be reached, and it's just the beginning. But I'm happy with the progress and development I'm making and enjoying every minute at Liverpool.
And you spoke about international football now. There's the Women's World Cup coming up in France in June. I'd love to get your feelings on the tournament, how much it's grown in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive, and I feel like there's a lot of excitement around this World Cup since, you know, everybody's been investing, and there's a lot more spotlight on women's football, and there's so much talent. I think England especially have really broke through as a team that can challenge to win the World Cup, because there are so many talented players within that squad. So there's definitely a lot of excitement around the world, but even more so, I can speak for England. There's so much excitement here throughout the clubs and throughout just football fans in general, because we really do have a chance, and the girls are working hard and proving that it could be possible.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you for getting us really excited about women's football as well, and all the best for your campaign forward. Liverpool winger Gemma Perfield, thank you. Now, on International Women's Day this month, the US women's football team filed a gender discrimination lawsuit against the country's soccer federation. Like women in other fields, the team want the athletics body to address issues such as the pay gap. As William Denslow reports from New York, advocacy groups and the UN are teaming up to solve their concerns.
Downtown United wants to tackle gender inequality at the grassroots level. Through local partnerships, their goal is to give girls more opportunities to play. But coach Kimani Kalnek says they still don't get the same access to resources as boys' teams.
Girls don't get afforded the same kind of field space opportunities or the same kind of access to facilities. So even when we get a wonderful opportunity like playing in this beautiful facility, it maybe not be on the day we want to play or the exact time, it's kind of the time slot that's then left appropriated to us.
Some of the girls here are travelling to France this summer. They'll watch the US women's football team defend their World Cup title. In 2014, Germany was given $35 million for winning the Men's World Cup. A year later, the US women were only given $2 million. The team is now filing a lawsuit against the US Soccer Federation for what it says is institutionalized gender discrimination.
How is that fair that we're doing the same job as men yet getting paid less?
We should be treated the same with male, given the same opportunities.
So women deserve a chance to be recognized, and they're not getting that kind of recognition.
A civil rights law was passed in 1972 to prevent gender discrimination in education and federally funded activities. It's seen as a significant step in the fight for gender parity, but inequality remains. Women's sport in the US receives less than 5% of total media coverage.
Gender equality in sport is a priority at this club, but remains a problem around the world. However, efforts are underway to try and level the playing field.
This year, the UN's Commission on the Status of Women is focusing on access to public services and sustainable infrastructure. And some attendees say sport can play a major role.
Role models for these girls are really important. It could be in media, it could be as a coach. When I look at it, you know, all sports, there's a lack of female coach.
The captain of the US women's soccer team says she hopes their lawsuit will send a message to women around the world that talent should decide who achieves their sporting goals.
Women's football will remain in sharp focus. A couple of very important fixtures for your diary, events you simply do not want to miss this season. The 18th edition of the UEFA Women's Champions League final will be held in Budapest, Hungary. The match will be played at the Groupama Arena on May 18th. Save that one for your diary. And the final of the FIFA Women's World Cup is in France. That takes place on July 7th. But it's not just in the UK or the US that women's football is fast gaining popularity. The same thing is happening in Italy. On Sunday, a crowd of 39,000 fans at Turin's Allianz Stadium were there to watch the Juventus women play Fiorentina in their first match for the Italian Women's League. The previous record for a women's football match in Italy was 14,000 fans.
Yes, it was amazing. I had goosebumps so many times during the game. All the people, they really helped us through the game, supported us all the way. So I will never forget this day. It's not often that I score and then being a match winner today, that I don't think I've tried that before.
And that brings this very special edition of Beyond the Game to a close. Scenes from that historic match between Atletico Madrid and Barcelona to play us out. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Beyond the Game, brought to you by Turkish Airlines.